Millionaire took his ugly secretary to dinner and was left breathless when she looked like a goddess. Hello everyone. Before we begin today's story, I have a small favor to ask. Please hit subscribe and turn on the notification bell so you never miss our channel's new videos. It's quick, free, and the best way to support us in bringing you more dramatic stories. Your support means the world to us. Where are you watching from? Drop your city or country in the comments below. Thank you very much. Now, let's dive back into the story with our main character. Emma sat nervously at the corner table of the upscale restaurant, adjusting her second-hand dress for the 10th time. The fabric wasn't exactly the most flattering, but she had made do. Her shoes were scuffed, and the heels were slightly too high, a leftover from a friend's closet. Her fingers trembled as she checked her phone for the 3rd time in the last minute, praying this wasn't some cruel joke. Table 7, she muttered under her breath, making her way toward the back of the restaurant. The sounds of soft clinking silverware and murmurs of conversation filled the air, the warm golden lighting casting a cozy glow across the room. It was the kind of place where everything looked polished, except her. The faint hum of the evening buzzed around her as she arrived at the table, where a man sat, engrossed in his phone, looking every bit like the professional she was supposed to meet. He was impeccably dressed, sharp, his dark hair neatly styled. He glanced up, a flicker of confusion crossing his face before it was quickly masked by a polite smile. Emma froze, panic rising in her chest. She had made a mistake. He wasn't Kevin, the man she was supposed to meet for the blind date. But before she could speak, he stood up, his polite smile still in place. "Hi, Emma?" He was about to say something, but his voice trailed off, clearly uncertain. She blinked, embarrassed, then blurted, "Oh my God, I'm so sorry. I must have sat at the wrong table." She felt her face turn crimson. Her mind scrambled for the fastest exit, but instead of immediately excusing himself, the man just smiled faintly, his expression softening. "It's okay. Blind dates, right?" He gestured for her to sit down. She stared at him for a moment before reluctantly sitting, her heart still racing. "You must be Kevin," she said, forcing a smile. The man sat back down across from her, seeming to relax. "I'm not Kevin," he replied, a slight grin on his face. "But I'm happy to sit here with you. I think we're both going to need a drink to survive this date." She couldn't help but laugh, the tension in her chest loosening a little. For a moment, there was an awkward silence between them. Emma wasn't sure if she should apologize again or just get up and leave. But he was surprisingly easy to talk to. "I know this is really awkward," she began. "But Jenny, my best friend, she insisted I come. She thought you were shy, so she told me I would have to do all the talking." He smiled, his eyes twinkling. "You seem to be doing just fine," he said, raising his glass. Emma laughed again, trying to keep things light. "Well, I'm a waitress. Not exactly glamorous," she admitted, fiddling with her napkin. "But it pays the bills, most of them." "I work in tech," he replied, his voice vague, but his tone intrigued her. "Oh, like coding and apps?" she asked, trying to make conversation. "Something like that," he said with a slight smile, leaning back in his chair. Emma smiled to herself, thinking how strange it was that she'd made such an embarrassing mistake. But somehow, this man, whoever he was, made it easy to forget how awkward everything felt. They continued talking, and the conversation began to flow effortlessly. Emma found herself sharing stories about her life, her struggles with bills, her dreams of one day opening her own art studio, the challenges of working double shifts at the diner. As she spoke, she noticed how intently he listened, how he seemed genuinely interested. It was a far cry from the self-important tech guys she'd imagined would be on these kinds of dates. There was something about him that felt real, even if she was still wondering who he truly was. Her phone buzzed suddenly, and she glanced at the screen. It was a message from Jenny. "Hey, Emma. Where are you?" "I'm at table 7, looking forward to meeting you, Kevin." Her stomach dropped as the realization hit. She wasn't sitting at the right table after all. Emma looked up, feeling her cheeks burn with embarrassment. "You're not Kevin, are you?" she whispered, barely able to meet his eyes. He hesitated, a slight trace of guilt flickering across his features, but he nodded. "No, I'm not Kevin." Emma's heart sank, but instead of pushing him away, she sat frozen, unsure of what to say next. I'm so sorry. This is so embarrassing. She grabbed her coat, standing up quickly. Wait, he said, standing as well. It's all right, Emma. But, he trailed off, his voice softer now. Maybe we could still have that drink. The invitation caught her off guard. She hesitated for a moment. Then, despite her embarrassment, she sat back down. There was something about him, something beyond the awkwardness of the mistake, that made her want to stay. Little did she know, the night was just beginning, and what she thought was an embarrassing mistake was about to lead her into something completely unexpected. As Emma sat back down, her face still burning with embarrassment, the atmosphere between her and the stranger started to shift. She took a deep breath and adjusted her second-hand coat, trying to push the uncomfortable feeling of making a mistake out of her mind. She had been so sure when she walked into the restaurant that she was meeting Kevin, the guy her best friend Jenny had set her up with. But now, she was sitting at the wrong table, facing someone she had no idea about. Yet, somehow, it didn't feel as awkward as it should have. The man across from her he was easy to talk to, and despite the tension from the mix-up, he was genuinely interested in what she had to say. He made her laugh, easing her nerves. I know, right? Blind dates can be pretty weird, she said, trying to break the ice. But at least I don't have to make small talk with someone who's glued to their phone. You're actually listening to me, he chuckled, looking down at his phone and then back at her with a smile. Yeah, I'm sorry about that. I wasn't expecting you to be so interesting, and I wasn't expecting to enjoy this. He leaned back in his chair, clearly more at ease than before. Emma smiled, surprised by his honesty. She thought for a moment about his words interesting. She didn't feel interesting. She felt like a mess in her second-hand dress, her life a series of small, constant struggles. But for some reason, in this moment, she felt like she was being seen. As soon as she stepped outside, Liam was there, waiting for her with a smile. He looked casual yet put together, wearing a simple jacket and jeans, but his presence still made her feel like she was underdressed. You look great, he said, his smile warm and genuine. Emma felt a blush creep up her neck, and she smiled back, trying to hide her nervousness. Thanks, she said, her voice a little quieter than usual. Liam opened the car door for her, and she slipped inside. Emma smiled to herself, feeling a little giddy. This was happening. She was going to meet him again. But as she lay in bed that night, she couldn't shake the feeling of doubt that had started creeping in. Was this really just a casual coffee? Or was it something more? She had no idea what to expect, but she knew that for the first time in a long while, she was excited. Thursday afternoon arrived faster than she expected. Despite the awkwardness of the evening, she felt a warmth spreading through her chest. She was talking to someone who wasn't judging her, who wasn't looking at her like she was just another waitress trying to make it in the big city. He was actually seeing her. It was strange, and it made her nervous. She wanted to reach for the security of her phone, but she stopped herself. She realized she didn't need to hide behind it. She wanted to keep talking to him. She wanted to know more about him. So, tell me something about yourself. Anything. What do you do for fun? She asked, now genuinely interested. He paused for a moment, thinking. I guess I work a lot, but I like to travel when I can. I've been to a few places in Europe, some cool spots in Asia. The usual tech guy thing. She raised her eyebrows. The usual tech guy thing? She asked playfully. You know, he shrugged. Going to fancy conferences and doing business while pretending to enjoy it. But yeah, I'd rather go somewhere quiet, maybe the mountains. I'm not a big fan of cities, to be honest. Emma smiled. Same. Cities can be loud and overwhelming. Exactly, he agreed, his smile matching hers. Emma was starting to feel like this was no longer just a blind date that she had accidentally screwed up. She was having a real conversation with a real person, and the more she learned about him, the more she liked him. He wasn't just another rich guy. After a few more minutes of talking, Emma realized something unexpected. She was actually enjoying herself. This man, who she had mistaken for someone else, was refreshing. He didn't seem like the typical business type that women in New York City were always going on dates with. He wasn't trying to impress her with his status or name. He was just real. So, you work in tech? She asked, genuinely curious. Yeah, he replied, but more on the management side. Emma's heart skipped a beat. Was he joking? She wasn't sure. She smiled, but her cheeks flushed. Yeah, me too. It's been fun. She didn't know how to finish the sentence. He seemed to notice her hesitation, so he stood up. Well, it's getting late, he said, his tone casual. How about we call it a night? She nodded, relieved that he didn't make things more awkward by dragging out the evening. She wasn't ready to say goodbye, but she didn't want to stay too long either. Sure, she replied. Thanks for not making this so horrible. He smiled, clearly amused. I think we both made the best of a pretty awkward situation. They left the restaurant together, and as they stepped out into the cool night air, Emma couldn't help but feel a small sense of excitement stir inside her. This night was nothing like what she had expected, and for the first time in a long while, she felt like maybe things weren't as hopeless as they seemed. The next few days passed by quickly for Emma. The awkwardness of the mistaken blind date had faded into a pleasant memory, though she couldn't help but think about him every now and then. Liam Parker. The man she had mistakenly sat next to in that upscale restaurant. It had been over a week since that night, and she still found herself replaying their conversation in her mind. She couldn't deny that she felt something unexpected, yet real. It wasn't just the fact that he was rich, or that he had a quiet charm. It was the way he listened, the way he made her feel, like she wasn't invisible for the first time in ages. She knew it was foolish to get her hopes up. He was, after all, a millionaire. He was the kind of guy who had women throwing themselves at him all the time, and she was just a waitress. But she couldn't help herself. She found herself checking her phone every few hours, hoping for a message, even though she knew she was being silly. One evening, as she was about to turn off her phone and head to bed, a notification popped up. It was from Liam. She couldn't believe it. She quickly opened the message, her heart racing. Hey Emma, it's Liam. I hope you're doing well. I was wondering if you'd like to meet up for coffee sometime this week. Let me know when you're free. Emma stared at the message for a moment, unsure if she was dreaming. It had only been a week, and yet here he was, reaching out to her. Emma felt her heart swell at his words. It wasn't the kind of compliment she was used to. It wasn't just about how she looked or how she made him feel. It was about her passion, her dreams. For the first time in a long time, Emma felt like someone truly believed in her. The conversation continued, flowing easily, and by the time the coffee was finished, Emma found herself feeling more comfortable than she had in a long time. Maybe this wasn't just a one-time thing. Emma smiled to herself, feeling a little giddy. This was happening. She was going to meet him again. But as she lay in bed that night, she couldn't shake the feeling of doubt that had started creeping in. Was this really just a casual coffee? Or was it something more? She had no idea what to expect, but she knew that for the first time in a long while, she was excited. Thursday afternoon arrived faster than she expected. Emma spent the morning getting ready, choosing an outfit that made her feel comfortable, but still nice enough to look presentable. She tried to calm her nerves, but it was hard. When 2 p.m. finally rolled around, she heard the sound of a car pulling up outside her apartment. She glanced out the window and saw Liam's sleek black car parked at the curb. Her heart skipped a beat. He was here. She quickly grabbed her bag, took one last look in the mirror, and made her way downstairs. As soon as she stepped outside, Liam was there, waiting for her with a smile. He looked casual yet put together, wearing a simple jacket and jeans, but his presence still made her feel like she was underdressed. "You look great," he said, his smile warm and genuine. Emma felt a blush creep up her neck, and she smiled back, trying to hide her nervousness. "Thanks," she said, her voice a little quieter than usual. Liam opened the car door for her, and she slipped inside. The drive was smooth and easy, filled with light conversation, but Emma couldn't help but feel the butterflies in her stomach. She didn't know where this would lead, but something about him made her feel hopeful, even though she had tried to guard herself against it. After a short drive, they arrived at a cozy café. It was the kind of place that felt intimate, with soft lighting and a relaxed atmosphere. They found a small table by the window, and once they sat down, Liam immediately started talking. "So, tell me more about your art," he said, his voice soft but curious. Emma was surprised by how much interest he took in her work. She had always kept her dream of owning an art studio to herself, but something about Liam made her feel safe enough to share it. "Well, I've always loved painting, she began, feeling more at ease as she spoke. It's just something I've done for as long as I can remember. But life's been hard, so I haven't really had the chance to focus on it. I work as a waitress to pay the bills, but my dream is to one day open my own studio, where I can teach art and maybe even show my work. Liam listened attentively, nodding along. That's incredible, he said, a genuine warmth in his voice. I think you should go for it. Don't let anything stop you. You have the talent. I help develop products, but I'm not coding or anything. She nodded, taking a sip of her drink. That sounds fascinating, she said, though she had no idea what it entailed. Honestly, I'm terrible at tech. I can barely turn on my phone without something going wrong. He laughed. You'd be surprised how many people are like that. Technology's supposed to make life easier, but sometimes it just adds to the chaos. Emma agreed, laughing with him. But lately, with Liam in her life, she had started to realize that maybe there was beauty in letting go of the need to control everything. Maybe it was okay to just let things unfold. I used to worry about it all the time, Emma admitted, about what would happen next. But lately, I feel like I'm just taking things one step at a time. Liam stopped walking and turned to face her, his expression softening. That's a good way to live, he said quietly. After a few more minutes of talking, Emma realized something unexpected. She was actually enjoying herself. This man, who she had mistaken for someone else, was refreshing. He didn't seem like the typical business type that women in New York City were always going on dates with. He wasn't trying to impress her with his status or name. He was just real. So, you work in tech? She asked, genuinely curious. Yeah, he replied, but more on the management side. Was she just another girl to him? Someone he was entertaining for a while? Or did he see something real in her? It was one evening, as they sat at another quiet café, that Emma finally decided to ask. She had been dancing around the question for weeks, but tonight there was something different in the air. Something that made her brave enough to finally ask the question that had been weighing on her heart. Liam, can I ask you something? She said, nervously stirring her coffee. He looked up from his drink, his eyes warm and inviting. Of course, he replied, his voice gentle. What's on your mind? Emma took a deep breath, trying to steady her nerves. She had to ask, even if the answer might hurt. Why me? I mean, you could have anyone, right? You're a millionaire. You could have anyone you want. So why are you spending time with me? She immediately regretted the words as soon as they left her mouth. Her face flushed, and she looked down, suddenly embarrassed. But Liam didn't react the way she expected. Instead of brushing her off or giving her some generic answer, he took a moment to look at her, his expression thoughtful. Because I see something in you, he said quietly, his voice sincere. I see someone who's real. Someone who doesn't try to impress anyone. You're not like the people I'm used to being around. And that's something I admire. Emma looked up, surprised. She wasn't expecting that answer. She thought he would just laugh it off, or tell her it was just a fling. But instead, he was being completely honest with her. She felt her heart swell with emotion. I don't know what this is, Emma, he continued, his eyes never leaving hers. But I know that I enjoy being with you. I enjoy getting to know you. And that's not something I find every day. Emma swallowed, her throat suddenly tight. Was he serious? Or was this just another game for him? He seemed so genuine, but the doubts in her mind crept back. She looked away for a moment, trying to process his words. She didn't want to get hurt. She couldn't afford to get her hopes up. But something in his words made her want to believe him, made her want to trust that this wasn't just some fleeting moment. She met his gaze again, and this time, she smiled. I don't know what this is either, she said softly, but I'm willing to find out. Liam's face lit up with a smile, the warmth in his eyes making her heart skip a beat. Good, he said, his voice full of relief, because I'm not going anywhere. For the first time in what felt like forever, Emma allowed herself to believe in the possibility of something real, something that could be more than just a story of a girl meeting a millionaire. For the first time, she felt like maybe she deserved a happy ending too. As the evening continued, the conversation flowed naturally, and they laughed and shared more about their lives. By the time they parted ways, Emma felt a sense of peace she hadn't felt in a long time. It wasn't the certainty of where things would go, but the comfort of knowing that they were both willing to explore what was in front of them. It was a step into the unknown. But for the first time, the unknown didn't seem so scary. Over the next few weeks, Emma and Liam's connection deepened in a way neither of them had anticipated. Their meetings became more frequent, their conversations longer, and their time together felt more comfortable, as if they had known each other for years. Every time they met, Emma was surprised at how easy it was to be around him. She had expected the awkwardness of their first encounter to carry over into their future meetings, but instead, she found herself feeling at home in his company. He wasn't the intimidating millionaire she had imagined. He was just Liam, a man who was genuinely interested in her life, and in her dreams. One evening, they decided to take a walk through the city, something simple but intimate. The crisp night air wrapped around them as they strolled down the streets, talking about everything and nothing at all. They passed by a small park, the lights from the surrounding buildings casting a soft glow on the path. Emma glanced up at Liam, her heart still racing from the conversation they had just had about their future, about what they wanted out of life. "Do you ever think about the future?" Emma asked, her voice quieter than usual. Liam glanced over at her, a small smile playing at the corners of his lips. "I try not to," he said. His voice light, but serious. "The future's always changing, you know. It's hard to plan for something that doesn't exist yet." Emma nodded, understanding what he meant. She had always been the kind of person who planned ahead, who set goals and worked toward them. But lately, with Liam in her life, she had started to realize that maybe there was beauty in letting go of the need to control everything. Maybe it was okay to just let things unfold. "I used to worry about it all the time," Emma admitted, "about what would happen next. But lately, I feel like I'm just taking things one step at a time." Liam stopped walking and turned to face her, his expression softening. "That's a good way to live," he said quietly. "Sometimes the best things happen when we least expect them." Emma smiled, feeling a warmth spread through her chest. She didn't know where this was going, but she knew that, for the first time in a long time, she wasn't afraid of it. She wasn't afraid of the unknown. They continued walking, the city buzzing around them as they shared stories and laughed. As they reached a bench near the edge of the park, Liam suggested they sit down for a while. They both sank down onto the cool metal, their shoulders brushing as they settled into a comfortable silence. Emma glanced up at the sky, her thoughts drifting as she watched the stars above. She had always loved the stars. They had a way of making her feel small and insignificant, yet in their vastness, they made her feel like anything was possible. Liam leaned back on the bench, his arm resting on the back of it. "You know," he began, "when I first met you, I wasn't sure what to expect. I thought it was just going to be a casual thing, maybe a few drinks, a couple of laughs. But now, I can't imagine my life without you in it." Emma's heart skipped a beat at his words. She hadn't expected him to say that, and she suddenly found herself at a loss for words. She had been wondering how he felt, but hearing him say it out loud made it real. She turned to him, searching his face for any signs of uncertainty, but all she saw was sincerity. "Liam," she whispered, her voice barely audible. "I didn't expect this either. I didn't expect to feel the way I do about you," he smiled, leaning in slightly. "I think we're both surprised," he said, his voice soft but confident. "But that's what makes it special." The moment hung in the air, charged with the weight of their unspoken feelings. Emma felt her pulse quicken as she looked into his eyes. This was it. This was the moment when everything could change. She didn't know what the future held, but for the first time in a long time, she was ready to find out. As they sat there under the stars, the city around them seemed to disappear, leaving only the two of them and the quiet promise of something new. They didn't need to say anything more. The connection between them was already strong enough to speak for itself. And as they sat there, side by side, Emma realized that maybe this wasn't just about a chance meeting or a mistake anymore. Maybe this was the start of something that could last, a love that had begun by accident, but now, it felt like it was meant to be. The days that followed felt like a dream to Emma. She had never imagined that she would find herself in a relationship like this one, that started with such an awkward mistake, yet somehow felt so natural. Her time with Liam was everything she had never expected and more. He made her laugh, challenged her to think, and encouraged her to pursue her passions. It's just something I've done for as long as I can remember. But life's been hard, so I haven't really had the chance to focus on it. I work as a waitress to pay the bills, but my dream is to one day open my own studio, where I can teach art and maybe even show my work. Liam listened attentively, nodding along. That's incredible, he said, a genuine warmth in his voice. I think you should go for it. Don't let anything stop you. You have the talent. One evening, as they walked through the park near his penthouse, the city lights twinkling in the distance, Liam stopped her. He looked at her with a soft expression, his hands tucked into his jacket pockets, his breath visible in the cool air. I have something I need to tell you, he said, his voice serious. Emma stopped walking, her heart skipping a beat. She had learned to recognize the tone in his voice, the one that came before something important. What's going on? She asked, her voice tentative. Liam looked down for a moment, as if gathering his thoughts, before meeting her eyes again. I've been thinking a lot about us, he said slowly, and about what I want for the future. Emma's stomach tightened. She had no idea what he was going to say, but she feared that maybe this was where things were going to change. Maybe he was going to tell her that he couldn't keep seeing her, that it had all been fun but now it was time to move on. I just want to be honest with you, Emma, Liam continued, his voice gentle but firm. I know this started out differently, and I know we're from two very different worlds. But I've realized something. I don't care about that. I don't care about the differences between us. Emma's heart raced, her mind struggling to keep up with his words. I care about you, he added, his gaze never leaving hers. And I know that I want to build something real with you. I want us to be together, no matter what it takes. Emma felt a rush of emotions flood through her. She had been so afraid of this moment, afraid that he would pull away. But here he was, saying exactly what she had hoped to hear. Liam, are you sure? She whispered, her voice shaky. I mean, I'm just a waitress. I don't know if I'm the kind of person you should be with. He stepped closer, his hand gently cupping her face. Emma, you're exactly the kind of person I want to be with. I don't care about what you do for a living, or how much money you make. I care about who you are. I care about your heart. Emma's breath caught in her throat. She had spent so much time worrying about their differences, about not being enough, and now he was telling her the one thing she needed to hear. He wasn't looking at her through the lens of her job or her financial situation. He was seeing her for who she really was. I've been in relationships before, Emma, Liam said quietly, but none of them felt like this. None of them made me want to be better, to be the kind of man I know I can be when I'm with you. His words were like a balm to her soul, soothing the doubts and insecurities that had been gnawing at her. She looked up at him, her eyes filling with tears. I want to be with you too, she said softly. More than anything. Liam smiled, his thumb brushing away a tear that had escaped down her cheek. Then let's do this, he said, his voice full of warmth and determination. Let's build something together. Let's make this real. And just like that, in the middle of the park, with the city lights twinkling in the distance, Emma knew that this was the moment that would change everything. She didn't know what the future held, but she knew she was ready to face it by his side. Over the next few months, Emma and Liam's relationship grew stronger. They faced challenges together, but each obstacle only seemed to bring them closer. Liam helped her take the steps toward opening her art studio, something she had dreamed about for years. He supported her every step of the way, not because of his wealth, but because he believed in her. Emma's confidence grew, and so did her love for him. It wasn't just the way he made her feel valued and seen, it was the way he encouraged her to be her best self, the way he challenged her, and the way he made her feel like she could do anything. As she stood on the doorstep of her new art studio one chilly morning, Liam by her side, Emma realized something she had never fully understood before. Love wasn't about perfection or matching up to some ideal. It was about being there for each other, about supporting each other's dreams, and about building a future together. And in that moment, she knew they had something real. Something that had started with a simple mistake, but had turned into a love that neither of them could have imagined. As the weeks passed, Emma and Liam's relationship continued to blossom, growing stronger with each passing day. They worked together, supported each other, and shared dreams about the future. For the first time in a long time, Emma felt like she had found a place where she truly belonged. Not because of who she was or wasn't, but because of the love and trust they had built together. It wasn't always easy, though. Despite all the love they shared, there were moments when the reality of their differences weighed heavily on Emma's mind. She had come from a modest background, working hard every day just to make ends meet, while Liam had always lived in a world of luxury and privilege. There were times when she felt like an outsider in his world, unsure of how she fit in, unsure of whether she would ever truly be accepted. One evening, after a long day at her new art studio, Emma found herself sitting on the edge of her bed, staring out the window at the city lights. Her thoughts were a blur, and her heart felt heavy. She had just finished a meeting with a potential investor for her studio, and while everything had gone well, the pressure of it all was starting to catch up with her. She had wanted this for so long, but now that it was finally happening, she couldn't shake the nagging feeling that she wasn't good enough. Just then, Liam knocked on the door, and she turned to see him standing there, a concerned look on his face. "Hey," he said softly, walking into the room and sitting beside her on the bed. "You've been quiet all evening. What's going on?" Emma hesitated, her gaze still fixed on the lights outside. She didn't want to burden him with her insecurities, but she knew he could tell something was wrong. I don't know if I can do this," she said, her voice barely above a whisper. "I've worked so hard to get here, and now that everything is falling into place, I don't feel like I belong. I feel like I'm out of my depth. Like I'm not good enough for this. Or for you." For the first time in a long time, Emma felt like she had found a place where she truly belonged. Not because of who she was or wasn't, but because of the love and trust they had built together. It wasn't always easy, though. Despite all the love they shared, there were moments when the reality of their differences weighed heavily on Emma's mind. She had come from a modest background, working hard every day just to make ends meet, while Liam had always lived in a world of luxury and privilege. Emma looked at him, her heart swelling with emotion. She had spent so much time doubting herself, but hearing him say those words made everything feel clearer. She wasn't just a waitress who had stumbled into a millionaire's world. She was someone worthy of love, worthy of success, and worthy of this life she was building. She leaned into him, resting her head on his shoulder, as he wrapped his arm around her. They sat there in silence for a few moments, the weight of her worries slowly lifting as she felt the comfort of his presence. "I love you, Liam," she said softly, her voice steady now. "I love you too, Emma," he whispered back, pressing a kiss to her forehead. Over the next few months, Emma threw herself into her art, her studio, and her future with renewed confidence. With Liam by her side, she knew she could accomplish anything. She had always dreamed of being an artist, but now, with his unwavering support, she felt like she was finally living her dream. They continued to navigate the challenges of their different worlds, but each time they faced a new obstacle, they faced it together. Liam's wealth and status were no longer something that made her feel small. They were just part of the life he led. And while Emma's humble beginnings still shaped who she was, she no longer saw them as something to be ashamed of. They were a part of her story, just as Liam's past was a part of his. One night, after they had spent the day at the studio together, Liam surprised her with a dinner reservation at one of the most expensive restaurants in the city. As they sat across from each other, the soft glow of the candles flickering between them, Emma couldn't help but smile. It was moments like this, moments where they could just enjoy each other's company, without worrying about what anyone else thought, that made her feel like she had found her place in his world. "You know," she said, taking a sip of her wine, "I used to think that being with someone like you would feel like living in a dream, like I wouldn't belong, like I wasn't meant to be here." Liam smiled, his eyes soft as he reached across the table to take her hand. "But you do belong, Emma," he said gently. "You belong with me, and that's all that matters." In that moment, Emma realized that the love they shared wasn't about fitting into each other's worlds. It was about creating a world of their own. A world where they both belonged, where they both supported each other's dreams, and where they both knew that no matter what came their way, they would face it together. The pressure of running a business, the constant comparison between her humble beginnings and Liam's privileged life, sometimes made her question if she truly belonged in this world. Liam, however, was there every step of the way, reminding her that she didn't have to be perfect just herself. He had never treated her like anything less than his equal, and that was something Emma had come to cherish more than anything. Emma's art studio was thriving, and she had started teaching classes to aspiring artists, her dream finally becoming a reality. With Liam's support, she had gained the confidence she needed to take risks and follow through with her ambitions. But while everything seemed to be falling into place professionally, there were still moments when Emma's insecurities crept back in. The pressure of running a business, the constant comparison between her humble beginnings and Liam's privileged life, sometimes made her question if she truly belonged in this world. Liam, however, was there every step of the way, reminding her that she didn't have to be perfect just herself. He had never treated her like anything less than his equal, and that was something Emma had come to cherish more than anything. One evening, as they sat in the living room of Liam's penthouse, the glow from the fireplace casting a warm light around the room, Liam looked at Emma with a serious expression. "I've been thinking a lot about our future," he said softly. Emma glanced over at him, sensing that something was on his mind. She set her glass of wine down, her heartbeat picking up pace. "What about it?" she asked, trying to keep her voice steady. Liam paused for a moment, as if gathering his thoughts. Emma felt her heart swell at his words. It wasn't the kind of compliment she was used to. It wasn't just about how she looked or how she made him feel. It was about her passion, her dreams. For the first time in a long time, Emma felt like someone truly believed in her. The conversation continued, flowing easily, and by the time the coffee was finished, Emma found herself feeling more comfortable than she had in a long time. Maybe this wasn't just a one-time thing. "Liam," she whispered, her voice trembling with emotion. "Are you saying what I think you're saying?" He smiled, his eyes softening. "Yes, Emma. I want to marry you. I want to make this official, in front of our friends and family. I want to build a life together, whatever that looks like." Emma's heart swelled with emotion, and for a moment, she felt like she was floating. She never imagined that her life would lead to a moment like this, and yet here she was, sitting next to the man she loved, knowing that he wanted to spend forever with her. She had always worried that she wasn't enough, that she wasn't worthy of someone like Liam, but now she realized that it was never about worth. It was about love. It was about finding someone who saw you for who you truly were and accepted you completely. The pressure of running a business, the constant comparison between her humble beginnings and Liam's privileged life, sometimes made her question if she truly belonged in this world. Liam, however, was there every step of the way, reminding her that she didn't have to be perfect just herself. He had never treated her like anything less than his equal, and that was something Emma had come to cherish more than anything. It was about building something real, something lasting, something that neither of them could have predicted when they first met. Over the next few weeks, they began planning their wedding, something simple but meaningful, reflecting both of their personalities. They chose a small venue with close friends and family, a setting that felt intimate and personal. One evening, as they sat in the living room of Liam's penthouse, the glow from the fireplace casting a warm light around the room, Liam looked at Emma with a serious expression. "I've been thinking a lot about our future," he said softly. Emma glanced over at him, sensing that something was on his mind. She set her glass of wine down, her heartbeat picking up pace. "What about it?" she asked, trying to keep her voice steady. Liam paused for a moment, as if gathering his thoughts. And as they sat there, sharing a quiet dinner in the glow of candlelight, Emma knew that this was just the beginning of their story. A story that had started with a mistake, but had turned into something real, something that neither of them would ever let go of. As the months went by, Emma and Liam's relationship continued to evolve in ways they never expected. They had both grown in their own personal lives, but together, they were building something deeper. One evening, as they sat in the living room of Liam's penthouse, the glow from the fireplace casting a warm light around the room, Liam looked at Emma with a serious expression. "I've been thinking a lot about our future," he said softly. Emma glanced over at him, sensing that something was on his mind. She set her glass of wine down, her heartbeat picking up pace. "What about it?" she asked, trying to keep her voice steady. Liam paused for a moment, as if gathering his thoughts, and with that, they drove off into the future, ready for whatever came next. Together. The first few months of marriage were everything Emma had hoped for and more. It wasn't just the romantic moments, the candlelit dinners, or the sweet words whispered before bed. It was the partnership they had built together, the way they supported each other through life's challenges. Liam had become her rock, just as she had become his. They had each found something in the other that they hadn't realized was missing until they met. Emma had always been independent, always driven to make it on her own. But now, with Liam by her side, she realized that love didn't mean giving up that independence. It meant having someone who believed in her, who would cheer her on every step of the way. And for Liam, Emma had given him something he hadn't known he needed, either someone who grounded him, who saw him for who he truly was, and not just the successful millionaire everyone else seemed to view him as. Together, they were building something neither of them had expected, but both of them needed. As the seasons changed, so did their lives. Emma's art studio continued to flourish, attracting more students and artists who were eager to learn from her. She was becoming known not just for her work, but for her heart, her willingness to share her journey with others. She often found herself reflecting on the first time she walked into that little café, thinking about how far she had come. And every time she looked at Liam, she knew that their love story was one that could never be predicted, that they were creating something completely their own. But life, as always, had its twists and turns. They had each found something in the other that they hadn't realized was missing until they met. Emma had always been independent, always driven to make it on her own. But now, with Liam by her side, she realized that love didn't mean giving up that independence. It meant having someone who believed in her, who would cheer her on every step of the way. She was excited, of course, but there was a part of her that worried about losing the personal touch that had made her studio so special. She knew that if she took the offer, things would change. It wasn't just about the money, it was about the impact it would have on her vision for the future. That night, she and Liam sat down together, as they often did when they needed to make important decisions. "I've been offered a partnership," Emma said, her voice uncertain. "It's a huge opportunity, but I'm not sure if it's the right move. I'm scared it will change everything I've built." Liam listened carefully, his hand resting on hers. "It's a big decision," he said quietly. "But remember, this is your dream. You've worked so hard to get here. Whatever choice you make, I'll be by your side. And if you decide to take this opportunity, we'll make sure it stays true to what you want." Emma looked at him, grateful for his unwavering support. She had come to realize that this was one of the many ways he had shown his love for her, not by making the decisions for her, but by helping her feel confident in the choices she made. With his encouragement, Emma decided to take the leap and accept the partnership. She didn't know exactly what the future would hold, but she trusted in herself, in her vision, and in the love that had brought her to this point. Over time, the partnership turned out to be everything she had hoped for and more. She was able to expand her studio while still keeping the heart of what made it special. She hired a team of talented instructors who shared her passion, and together, they created a community of artists who were eager to learn and grow. And through it all, Liam remained her steadfast support, always there to help her navigate the challenges of running a successful business, while also encouraging her to stay true to her roots. As the years went by, Emma and Liam continued to thrive in their personal and professional lives. They traveled together, explored new cities, and built memories that would last a lifetime. But no matter where life took them, one thing remained constant: their love for each other. It was a love that had started with a mistake, a mix-up at a café, but had turned into something beautiful, something real. As they sat on the balcony of their home one evening, looking out at the city lights below, Emma rested her head on Liam's shoulder, feeling a sense of peace she had never known before. "We've come a long way, haven't we?" she said softly. Liam smiled, his arm wrapped around her. "Yes, we have, but the best part is, we're still going." Emma nodded, knowing that this was just the beginning of their story. There would always be challenges, there would always be uncertainties, but together, they could face anything. And as the night sky stretched out before them, Emma felt the warmth of Liam's love, knowing that whatever the future held, they would navigate it side by side. If you love heartfelt *** millionaire stories, *** that show the power of love, ambition, and overcoming challenges, this one will captivate your heart. She was able to expand her studio while still keeping the heart of what made it special. She hired a team of talented instructors who shared her passion, and together, They created a community of artists who were eager to learn and grow. And through it all, Liam remained her steadfast support, always there to help her navigate the challenges of running a successful business, while also encouraging her to stay true to her roots. With each twist and turn, Emma and Liam's journey becomes a testament to the idea that true love doesn't care about money or status, it's about building something real. Follow their emotional journey as they work through insecurities, take on new opportunities, and grow together as partners in both love and life. By the end of this unforgettable millionaire story you'll be reminded that sometimes the best things in life happen when you least expect them, and love can change everything. Don't miss this inspiring tale of two people from different worlds who come together to create a life they both never imagined, proving that even the most unexpected meetings can lead to the most extraordinary stories. This is a millionaire story, that will leave you believing in the power of love and second chances.